Don't have a fear of failure. Just go for it, see what happens. The worst that can happen is you're sitting there and you tried it and you're moving on. The best that can happen is your idea flourishes into something you didn't even think was possible.
Hi friends, welcome in to Lessons from Living. So tell me, what is your inclination? When something substantially negative happens in your life, do you bemoan the fact that something terrible has happened? Or do you work to create something beautiful and good out of the negative? That's what our guest Aaron Grunke did. And today he's part of an organization that serves others to better their lives. And for all of you out there who are feeling a tug from the Holy Spirit to take action in some way, listen to the end, because Aaron shares with you why it's important to take that action. Welcome, Aaron Grunke. Well, hello, Aaron. Thank you so much for being with us on Lessons from Living today.
You're welcome. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. First of all, War Eagle.
War Eagle.
I didn't know that you were an Auburn man until I started reading your bio and information. So that is exciting. Both my husband and I attended there, and we have 6 kids, and only one of them, we have a token tiger here, Aaron.
Well, that's good. At least you got one, but War Eagle,
Yes.
and that's exciting. So that's going to make today even more fun.
Yes, I agree. So you were actually at Auburn when you were first diagnosed with cancer, and it seems like it was an unusual situation in that you were obviously very young, and it was also very aggressive, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, I was diagnosed with an aggressive form of testicular cancer a couple of days before my senior year of college was set to begin. So I think class started on Wednesday, and I had surgery on Monday evening or Monday afternoon, and then got back to Auburn the very next day to start classes. So yeah, it was a whirlwind. Unfortunately, testicular cancer is usually very aggressive, and it's 18 to 34 is the hot seat for that disease.
Wow. That had to be a gut punch. I can't imagine being about to graduate and hit with something like that. What was that like?
Well, I was 21, so at 21 you're legally an adult. You can legally drink alcohol, but you're very much still a kid. I did not know what I was getting into. I don't think anybody does, but as a 21-year-old college senior, this was the last thing on my mind, thinking this could happen. So it was definitely a gut punch. One minute you're a college kid, and the next minute you're a cancer patient. So it was
Yes,
world was turned upside down, to say the least.
absolutely. So if you would explain the course of your treatment, and you can do it in some detail, because I would like everyone to fully appreciate how tough this is, especially for a young person.
Absolutely. Well, in the beginning, I had my first operation, and it was just an operation, and the physician believed that we got it all and that I might not have to have chemotherapy. So like I said, I had surgery on Monday. I think I went back to school Tuesday morning to get ready for classes to begin Wednesday. And for the next few months, I just would have a blood test on Fridays to see that my tumor markers were coming down accordingly. With testicular cancer, there are a couple of tumor markers that my physician was looking for. And they were coming down accordingly because they do have a half-life. And I'm not a physician by trade, so some of this is going from memory. And I'm 42 now, and this was when I was 21. So for the listeners out there, if anybody's going through a battle at this stage, and I missed something, I do apologize. But there are a couple of tumor markers that my physician was tracking. And so I would be in school. I'd go back to the Atlanta area to see my physician. We'd do a blood test, and they were coming down like clockwork from August until about October. And then in October, I had a spike on one of my blood tests showing that the cancer was still in my bloodstream. And so at Thanksgiving, I started chemotherapy. I had 3 rounds of what they call BEP, which is bleomycin, etoposide, and cisplatin. And I started at Thanksgiving, and I think I ended around early January. And at that point, they saw my tumor markers were normal, and my CT scans were clear. So I withdrew school for my final semester, which was spring of 2005, to finish up treatment, grow my hair back, and get healthy. And so the plan was to go back to school the fall of 2005 and just graduate a semester late. So I got done with treatment in January, and they were following me, of course, closely with tumor markers and CT scans. Well, my first CT scan in May of 2005 showed some enlarged lymph nodes, and testicular cancer usually goes to either your lymph nodes or your lungs, and mine went to my lymph nodes. And so at that point, May of 2005, what that meant was I was due for another operation to where they go get lymph nodes out of your abdomen. And it's the surgery is RPLND, and that is short for retroperitoneum lymph node dissection. And so they go through your abdomen, and your lymph nodes are right by your spine. So they go get those, and my physician took 8, even though a couple were only enlarged. He said he was taking the pathway away. And so after that, we learned there was a little bit of cancer in those lymph nodes. It wasn't just residual scar tissue. And so I had to have 2 more rounds of what they did was EP, so etoposide and cisplatin. And then I went back to school in August of 2005, right after treatment. So June, July of 2005, I had 2 more rounds of chemo. Then I went back to school in August of 2005, still going through the scans. And unfortunately, in October of 2005, they found some lymph nodes on the other side of my abdomen. So I graduated college December 16th, 2005. And on December 21st of 2005, I had to have the same operation again on the other side of my abdomen. This time it was cancer again, and there were a couple of different cell types in there. And so they did a different regimen of chemo for 4 more months. And I don't remember the combination of chemotherapy they did that time. I know one of the drugs was adriamycin, but I don't remember the others. And so that was a almost 3-month regimen of chemotherapy. And then in May of 2006, I heard the good news that I was clear. And I've been cancer-free ever since.
Wow. Praise God.
Yeah, so that was an emotional and physical roller coaster for the better part of 2 years.
Yes. And to be trying to return to school after chemo, I can't imagine. That had to be
Yes.
very difficult.
Yeah, I remember getting my first haircut my 5th fall. I would say it's easier on a guy than a female college student because I could wear a hat. And once I kind of had a shadow and some color and some sun back, it was okay. But definitely all my friends knew what was going on, and I was self-conscious of it and everything like that. But yeah, it was definitely a whirlwind. Didn't really feel like myself at all yet, but going through the motions, trying to finish, trying to move on, really didn't know which way was up.
Wow. So it's no surprise that you think you are a changed person post-treatment.
Absolutely. I think once you hear those words, you have cancer, that you're never the same.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think changed about you through that whole process?
Well, I think I went from being a 21-year-old college kid to my only worry was kind of what my friends were up to and what we were going to be doing next, and going to class and going to football games. And then all of a sudden I'm a cancer survivor and I've got to worry about chemotherapy, doctor's appointments, really fighting for my life. And we all go from that overnight if you're diagnosed with cancer. But I think being such a young kid at 21, you always think, well, that's something that happens at the end of life when you're much older, but it can happen to young people too. And so just again, total world turned upside down.
Mm-hmm. So post-treatment, how did you feel? Like what what
Tired,
changes had occurred?
weak, scared, anxious, um, angry, because I didn't feel like I fit with my peers anymore. I felt like I was much older. Um, my mom always said you learned a lot of over 40 lessons at 21 to 23. Um, but I had gained some weight. I'd lost some strength. I was scared to even drive by a hospital because I'd get done with treatment, get going a little bit, 2 or 3 months, and then hear something else was going wrong. So I was scared to say the least. Had no idea what was next because this thing just kept going and going. And I'm very grateful it had a happy ending, but in that time, it was very hard.
Yes, brutal. So you had opted to address these changes through exercise. That probably wouldn't be a lot of people's first inclination. Why do you think you gravitated toward exercise?
Um, well, normal people go to the gym, and I was active as a kid. I played sports in high school or all the way through high school, and I took all of that for granted. I mean, even in college, playing intramurals and volleyball with my friends and things like that, I just always had a base level of fitness that I wasn't thinking about. I enjoyed working out, but then when I got done with cancer, those 2 years, I wasn't wasn't really working out during that time because I'd get done and then I have to go do more, and I'd be recovering from surgery, go do a little more chemo. So I never got really a baseline back, and I didn't realize how much strength was lost. Again, a lot of this is youth, and ignorance is bliss when you're very young. So it wasn't until it was all over that I realized how weak I was and how anxious I was. I knew I'd gained weight. I was one of the cancer patients that put on weight with steroids, chemo. You kind of have a dull sense of taste, so you're eating the fun stuff. I mean, my appetite grew with my Chick-fil-A order and things like that. And the doctor's orders were, "Hey, if you're hungry, eat." So I'd gained some weight. I gained about 23 pounds. So I knew I needed to get back in shape and build it up. But really, I just kind of felt peace going in the gym because it was normal. I could put a hat on. No one knew what was going on. Because after college, I moved to Nashville. And so I knew a very limited number of people, which was refreshing because I could go to the gym, I could get lost in there and just be by myself. So it was very
Mhm.
peaceful.
Okay. Well, I credit exercise with helping me to survive chemo because I was working out really hard prior to my diagnosis. And I feel like the strength that I had really got me through chemo. But going back was really hard.
Yes.
And to this day, I still don't feel like I have the endurance or strength that I did before. Now, I'm a lot older than you, but you went through
But
this
it happens
younger.
to everybody. It's,
Was
you know
that
it
the
as well
same
as
for
I do.
you? I mean, do you feel like you're back
I
100%?
do, but I did have to put, there were some humbling moments in the beginning. At one point I told myself that, this really nice treadmill couldn't possibly be calibrated correctly because I couldn't be running this slow and be this tired. And I'm using running very lightly. I mean, a little more than a walk, and it's going, and I'm out of breath. So, there were some humbling moments along the way. But I was very, very fortunate. I took comfort in speaking with a trainer, after walking by a sign to do a fitness test for about 6 months. I finally had enough courage to go do that. And I knew what it was going to tell me, that I wasn't in great shape and I had work to do and all these things. But the particular trainer was just so uplifting and gave me baby steps on what to do next. and it was something I could gravitate to. He left me a couple of numbers on a Post-it note about heart rate. Never worried about heart rate in my entire life until I spoke to him. And he was like, you can get back to where you were. You just have to build a base. And just having very simple steps kind of lit the fire of where we are today and what we're going to talk about. But it just was basically building from ground zero, and someone believing in me was all it took.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. So that became the thing that helped you become the new you.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Well,
It was something I could gravitate towards. Looking back, I definitely had some mental health stress. I needed to speak with someone about everything I'd been through. But again, back to youth, I wasn't mature enough to admit or want to admit that. But I could work a lot of things out in the gym that were mental as well as physical. And so I gravitated to how I felt after a good workout. And, it was something that I could do at my own pace. I could check in with him in private. It was just kind of my new thing.
Okay. And at some point you had thoughts that this is really helping me. This might help other people.
Yeah, it started with, why didn't anyone tell me about this? I feel really good. I'm seeing some progress. I'm sleeping better. The glass is at least half full again. You always have your bad days, but starting to have some good days. Starting to shake the constant fatigue that would float through, because when you're post chemo, it's very different than just not working out for a while. And you don't get rid of a lot of that fatigue until you get active. And it's so counterintuitive when you're kind of tired and you don't want to get off the couch to, hey, I'm going to feel like I have more energy after I work out. So it's an odd phenomenon that is there for you. But again, the starting to think about how to help others really came with seeing results and wondering, why didn't my oncologist, why didn't a nurse, why didn't somebody tell me, hey, go get back in the gym, you'll feel better? And it's not placing blame on any of the medical professionals. I'm forever grateful of my medical dream team sitting here today. But I just think there's a next step, and there's a real gap in the recovery process, and it involves physical fitness. And that's kind of where my head went, of how do we help others, because I'm feeling so different.
Right. Yeah, that question, why didn't anybody tell you this?
Yeah.
I know. I thought that about a lot going through that process. There were so many things that would have been nice to know
Yeah.
ahead of time,
You don't.
I don't know if, I'm sure there's probably a desensitization that occurs in oncology because there's so many cancer patients and it becomes normalized to them. But I kept thinking, this is not normal,
Correct. Yeah. This is not, there needs to be more, or you should do it this way, or you're right. But you're right,
Yes.
though, when you have 15 or 30 minutes and you have a full day of patients, you can't think of everything, but they should.
Right. It would be helpful. So you had this idea that this could potentially help other people. And I've heard you describe it as a God idea. Why do you think that?
Well, if you kind of put my resume together of being a founder of something to help others, I'm not a personal trainer, not a physical therapist, not a doctor, but I've been there. I'm a cancer survivor. I lived it. I felt where I was before. I felt where I was during. I felt where I was after. And I had a story to tell. And I had the experience of starting day one, listening to someone, and then seeing results. And the physical results are one thing, but it's really the mental results were the next. Of what, I started to feel better going into the checkups. And, during that 5-year window where you're a regular at your checkups and you're living your life in between scans. There's prayer, there's hope, there's fear. So I just, it has to be a God thing to come up and say, hey, let's do this. And there are so many good people around us as we're pitching the idea as we are today and grown that it has to be God involved in all this to
Hmm.
grow it.
Yeah, I believe that we probably all have times when we receive promptings like this, but it's very easy to decline, you
Yes.
know? And so why in this instance do you think you acted?
It was one of those ideas I just couldn't get out of my head. And it took several years to go from me meeting with a trainer to living my life, working out, seeing the benefits, um, to putting this plan into action more than a blank piece of paper. I was actually in the MBA program at Lipscomb University, and I had the opportunity to do an independent study. And I thought to myself, if I'm ever going to do it, I've got to have a real reason to explore it. And when you meet with a professor and you explain how you want to design a class, you've got to do it. So you kind of, I kind of put the rubber to the road there of having a deadline, of having, drawing a potential business plan, speaking with people. So that really put it in motion. And, professor believed in me to put it as a class and supported me through it. And I started talking to people. It's the old bootstrap story. A friend of mine was an attorney. Hey, what do you think about helping me with the paperwork? A friend of mine was a gym owner. I pitched the idea to him. He's like, this is really cool. I'd love to try it with you. And so we just, I couldn't find anyone saying this was a terrible idea. And our first few participants proved it. And even today we hear it over and over again of how much it's needed. So we just keep going.
Uh-huh. So when you have this infant idea like that your professor approved of, and it looks like the doors are opening, how did you move forward?
I filed the paperwork that you do, to become a federal 501c3.
Mhm.
Went through that process with him. We found our first participant through a coworker of my wife. His wife was a breast cancer survivor, recently finished treatment. We pitched the idea to her of, hey, would you be interested in working out at a new gym? It'll be no charge. We have this idea. You will be patient number one, but the trainer's, very certified, very confident, very, very good at his craft. Would you just trust us? And again, we pitched everything to her, gave her the best way out possible, and she still said yes and had a great experience. And the other really cool thing about Survivor Fitness is our participants put in the work. We open the door, we give them an opportunity, but they get out of it what they put in it. And I think that really makes people feel proud and independent again. And when you've gone through a battle with cancer, you know it. Your doctor gives you a list of doctor's appointments, dates, times you'll be there for treatment. You're really not in but so much control anymore. But being on
Right.
this side of it, control's back and you're doing
Mhm.
it. And that's really cool.
Yes. So you never had a time when you thought, this isn't going to work, or
Oh yeah,
maybe this wasn't such a great idea?
absolutely. We've had plenty of times in the beginning where we're like, is this good? We love it. We feel good about it, but is this really what we should be doing? And
Uh-huh.
you always have self-doubt, but the
Yeah.
success stories and that just keep you going.
Okay. Well, tell us about how the organization progressed then and where you are with it now, what the components are of it.
Sure. Sure. We got started in 2013. Um, we started in Nashville. We had a handful of participants because my wife and I were doing this outside of our full-time jobs. And we really kind of did a proof of concept the first couple of years. Just this works. Here's what we think it should be. And then very exciting news. My wife was pregnant with twins. So we took a little time off to get them home and get settled in our new normal of a party of 4. Um, and so, we didn't do much 16 and 17 with it. If people came through the door, we helped them. We put them with gyms, etc., in the Nashville area. And then late 2018, my wife stepped into the role as executive director, and that was more of Survivor Fitness 2.0. And that's when we opened doors with gym partners in Knoxville. And then we've since grown to have gym partners in the Chattanooga area as well today. So we have 3 markets: Nashville, Chattanooga, and Knoxville, with multiple gym partner locations. And then we also, COVID changed us all. So we understand virtual needs. So we do have a virtual way to help people in their own comfortable home or garage or what have you, because what we've seen is the need is not just geography related. It is, you'll drive an hour for chemotherapy and treatment, but you won't drive an hour to go to a gym. And I completely understand that. And so we can't be everywhere, but we do have a virtual way to be everywhere. And so that is the physical component. We have a dietitian that we send people to for 3 to 5 times during their program with us. We also have a mental health component now, in partnership with BetterHelp. So we'll take it from the top. Physical fitness would be a 12-week program, 2 times a week. You'll meet with your trainer, and then to complete 24 workouts. We want you to complete your 3rd workout of the week on your own, because we're building confidence. We want this to be a lifestyle, not a fad. So you can go back to either the Y, the rec center, what have you, and your trainer will guide you. Some people, their 3rd workout consists of a walk around the neighborhood. They're really starting from ground zero. Some people, they're ready to go back to the gym a little bit and explore on their own. So it really is just customized. It's one-on-one. That's the only thing that's standard, is the number of sessions. Because we got to meet you where you're at. We can't tell you, here's a sheet of paper with some exercises on it. We have to meet you where you're at to meet your goals.
And there are some statistics that you cite that demonstrate the need for this service. Can you tell us about those?
Sure. I think the stats are, about 40% of the people are receiving and I know they're on our website. The stat is so many people are citing that this is their number one concern, and only a small minority are hearing about it through their physicians. And so we show the need. And then the really one that scares me is the rate of suicide is significantly higher among cancer survivors than the regular population. And so that's why we need to address mental health and personal training and nutrition, because all these things lead to increased mental health and everything of that nature.
Right. I love that you're incorporating that mental health aspect. I definitely needed that too, but even being older than you, I don't know if I was just too, I probably didn't know enough about myself even then to realize I needed it,
Sure. And I think it's a defense mechanism. We all think we're doing better than we are, and we all want to move on from it. And then, even your closest friends, your spouse, it's hard for them to truly understand what you've been through. And it's almost a blessing that they haven't gone through it themselves, but you do, unfortunately, can feel like you're on an island.
I agree. Well, when you think about post-cancer care in the future, what is your vision? What is your dream for it?
Our dream is that when you hear the good news of your scans are clear and or your blood work is clear, that this is just the next step. You're released from treatment, you're released from the infusion appointments, but now your appointment is with a trainer and a dietitian and or a mental health professional. And at least if it's not an appointment, it's at least explained to you that this will be needed at some point. because you're truly not back just because you had chemo yesterday and you don't have to have chemo today.
Right. Are you in oncology offices?
We work with oncologists as far as
Uh-huh.
referral partners, but we don't
Mhm.
have a physical office in an
Right.
oncology
That's
office at
what I
this
mean
stage.
by
Yeah,
in. If you've made presentations to them, they know what you're thinking about for the future.
absolutely. They're our best referral source because,
Okay.
as you know, when you're sitting in that doctor's office, you're hanging on to every word they're saying.
Right.
And so if they tell you need to work out, there's a much better shot you're going to do it than if you just see a flyer.
Right. That's excellent. I feel like we're a long way from this, from your vision,
Unfortunately,
unfortunately. Yes. It's just it does not seem to be their focus at all.
sure.
You know, they're putting out fires. I know that's what they do. I would like to put them out of a job,
Yeah,
honestly, you know?
exactly. I'd love for oncology to be in the back of the hospital, not a big shiny building.
Right, right. And have it seems like having strong patients post-treatment would probably effectively prevent a lot of recurrence. So
Sure.
it makes sense that they would promote this.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we all have better things to do than be sitting on the couch tired. I mean, it restores hope, but you're right. I mean, when you're gaining muscle, you're losing fat, your bone density is increasing, your balance is increasing. You know, your general practitioner is going to be very happy with you. Your blood pressure is going to go down. All the things that they're wanting from you are going to look better, and
Right.
you're stronger should you have to fight anymore.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned earlier the anxiety and depression associated with fear, just
Hmm.
the terrifying aspect of follow-up visits. And then I don't know if this is true for you, but anytime you have a pain that's anywhere remotely in an area where there's often metastatic cancer, that's where your mind goes.
Oh,
It's like,
absolutely. It's my my initial surgeon told my father, excuse me, after the initial operation that I would be in my mid 40s and have back pain and think it was cancer. And unfortunately, he couldn't do anything about it. And I'm in my early 40s, and if I have back pain, I immediately think, well, did I do something to deserve this back pain, such as working out too hard or reaching or whatever, or is it just something and now I'm scared about it? So
right.
you're very, very right that that's a thing.
Yeah, and I think that stress can impact future diagnoses potentially too. Stress is
A-
supposed to be one of the
Absolutely.
precursors. Yeah, interesting. So when you consider what you've done with Survivor Fitness, what has been the impact on your life, maybe the life of your family as well, just as being a part of this?
Well, I would say it's taking a bad situation that was definitely a curveball on my life early on and being able to turn something good out of it.
Hmm.
I never set out to create an organization that helped cancer survivors. That just wasn't on my radar until I lived it. So being able
Mm-hmm.
to do something with a really, really terrifying, hard situation has been rewarding. And it wasn't me alone. It was me having an idea and surrounding myself with some great people. Not only my wife, who's our executive director, but professionally a marketing background and things of that nature to really step in the role and do a phenomenal job. To our board of directors, to our team, who all has unique gifts and a passion. Unfortunately, cancer's touched all of us, so it's something everybody can get behind. And when you tell your story and you surround yourself by people who are way more talented than you are, some great things happen.
Mm-hmm. So you have a day job still,
I do have a day job still.
I'm assuming. Okay.
I'm in sales
How
by
have you
trade.
found? Okay.
So I'm able to, I'm in medical sales. I work with doctors regularly, so it's nice to be able to go present to doctors. I do have that skill set, but this is a way more fun conversation of, hey, we want to help your patients.
Yes,
There's no
yes.
cost involved. Here's what we're up to. Again, just send them our way. So
Uh-huh.
I do some marketing in that regard. But by day, I do have a different job. My
Yeah.
wife is our executive director. We have a team that works with her. And we have a board of directors that anytime we bring on a new board of director, we let them know this is not your average big organization board. This is a working board that's past the startup stage, but we're still in growth mode. So we're going to have some fun, and a lot of people gravitate to that. So we're grateful to have really talented people want to lend a little bit of their time to us to grow this.
Have you found your work with Survivor Fitness being fulfilling in a way that maybe your regular job is not? Or how does that compare for
Uh,
you?
I would say absolutely, because you always get lost talking to a fellow cancer survivor, and you and I had different cancers, and me and others may have had different cancers, but a whole lot of the emotional side and that is the same. So there's a therapeutic aspect and an exciting aspect to see them go from where I was scared, etc., and see them on their own journey to be the best version of themselves. So I would say watching people go from day one to the end and hearing their stories and being able to live life to the fullest is just something that is very humbling and honoring just to be able to watch, because it's an idea I had, but again, they put in the work and they're the real heroes of this. So it's kind of cool to have a front row seat and see those things.
Yeah, I bet. So thinking back to that time when you first got the inkling of the idea to where you are today, for someone who might be inspired to
Mhm.
do something like you actually did, um, how would you encourage them to take action like you did?
Oh, well, when you have an idea that you can't get out of your head, you're never going to know what it could be unless you try.
Mm,
And don't have a fear of failure. Just go for it, see what happens. The worst that can happen is you're sitting there and you tried it and you're moving on. The best that can happen is your idea flourishes into something you didn't even think was possible. And at the end of the day, I would much rather have tried it than not. And I think that's the thing, that as you're sitting there with a piece of notebook paper or a legal pad going, hey, I'm going to try this, you got to see it through.
yeah, that's great advice. So, Aaron, the show is called Lessons from Living. And at the end, we always say, and considering all of the lessons from living that you've encountered thus far, is there one that rises to the top for you? It could be
Um,
something we've talked about already or something entirely different.
there are plenty of life lessons. But I would just say the biggest one is embracing the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back, I feel like I'm in a much different spot. And unfortunately, it was a bad situation going through cancer, but there's been a lot of good from it. So I think just embracing the journey would be the best overarching way I can say it. And don't be afraid to try.
Mm-hmm. That's great. How can my listeners support you in your endeavors at Survivor Fitness?
Well, a couple ways. If you, a loved one, a coworker, a colleague, someone from your church has dealt with cancer, I'd love for you to let them know we exist. Survivorfitness.org is our website. And if they want to start our program, our application is online. So that would be number one. We want to help more people. We want to reach more people. Um, and then as a nonprofit, I'd be remiss if I didn't say we do raise funds as a 501c3 to support our participants, and that can be done on our website as well. Because we don't charge our participants for our services. We don't want the stack of medical bills to be the reason you don't get to live life to the fullest and get your strength back and your hope back. So those are the main two ways to help us. We'd love to connect with you. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. So it's Survivor Fitness Foundation. Love to connect with you there. But really our website for your friends and family. And then if you feel so led to support us on our website as well.
Okay, great. Well, I'm sure you have inspired a lot of folks today in lots of different ways, and hopefully some of them will be contacting you, and hopefully others will be developing ideas of their own. So we really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for doing what you do. I'm inspired to be here. I'm honored to be here, and look forward to helping your listeners any way we can. And I wish everybody the best.
All right. Thanks again.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks again, Aaron. We look forward to sharing the word about Survivor Fitness. And today I'll leave you with a word from Pablo Picasso. Action is the foundational key to all success. I don't think of old Pablo as being a philosopher, but that's pretty good. Go out and make it a great day.